important conversation around security is, of course, what we're turning our attention to next. And joining us to do justice to that is Mr. Agiole Abe, who's a retired Commissioner of Police, former Commissioner of Police, Kaduna State, former Commander Police Mobile Force, Owerri Imo, Kaduna State, was a former Commandant Police Mobile Training College in Osun State, and who's worn many caps. Good morning, Mr. Abe. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Morning, Karen. Nice having you out.
I mean, the last time we had this conversation, I didn't know we were going to have you again to talk about another dimension to insecurity in Nigeria. But, I mean, it is what it is. It is where we are right now. And for a lot of Nigerians, there's now skepticism. And I'd like us to begin from that, wondering, it doesn't make sense. With such ease, this time 87 people, first it was 16, previously 287 children, and they do the math and they're like, it doesn't make sense. For some other people, they say it looks like these areas are set up for the kidnappers, the bandits, to really have their day. The school, for example, no fence. So it's like some people have done half of the job and the bandits do the remaining half. So I'd like you to speak to the skepticism that a lot of Nigerians have, wondering, come on, this doesn't make sense. It's as though somebody wants this to happen, and that's why it's happening. I know you get that a lot, as particularly when you were in service. How do you handle such skepticism, particularly from the people who you expect to work with?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. Honestly speaking, sometimes people attach emotions to issues. I don't think anyone in his right senses would want such situations to happen. For God's sake, we too are parents. I think when there is a security gap and such incidents do happen, but trying to insinuate that people intentionally want these incidents to happen, I don't subscribe to that, and I don't believe it's true. The issue here is, what did we not do right that these incidents happen? That should be the question. And that should be the question security agencies should be prepared to answer. But saying that it's intentional or created to happen, I don't think it's true.
So how then do we know what is true? Because that's at the heart of this. We can talk about the kidnappings in Kaduna. We can talk about the killing of the military as well. It looks like what we always hear and see at the end of the day is just the tip of the iceberg. And there's a whole huge body underneath. And it's important to have at least most of the cards on the table if you want to build trust with the people. Case in point, the latest one in Kaduna, is this as a result of banditry or the result of the clashes we have seen? What do you expect security agencies and government particularly to be doing in terms of communication and messaging? Do you expect a step-by-step information on the operation? We've seen this in other crimes. You see briefings literally by the hour, sometimes every other hour, about, okay, this is where we're at with the kidnapping, our agents are there, and this is what we want to assure you. But that's not what we see here most times.
Yes, the truth is that the citizens have the right to know exactly what is happening within their communities. I think when there's a communication gap between the citizens and the government, people begin to think differently. And the government has a constitutional role to protect these people. And when they do not see element of this protection, I think it begins to create doubt in their minds, and they begin to come up with some theories about what went wrong. And I think when crimes like this keep happening, I think we need to design our security architecture to meet with the current trend of kidnappings or other dangerous crimes that are being perpetrated, especially this issue of kidnappings in school. I think by now we should come up with, the government should come up with policies that should be able to safeguard these children in schools, instead of allowing these kidnappers to come in freely and take away these children. I can't imagine the trauma these children will be going through right now, and it's going to live with them for a very long time. So I think we should be thinking of a different approach in managing this crisis.
So, it's difficult not for people to be suspect of what is going on, given the ease of execution. As a matter of fact, if you raise children, I'm sure you've handled a lot of children, handled a lot of people, just managing a kid or two is a lot of work. Then you see the number of children that have been moved, we've still not had them returned. And then the number of women. And what we hear, the narrative we get is, oh, they are moving from one point to the other. It's difficult to believe that that is even possible. It feels like for some people, there is an impenetrable fortress somewhere where they mobilize to, where I don't know whether the government can go there or people can go there, they don't know about it, because mobility, consistent mobility of these hostages or these people that have been abducted, it's difficult to understand how that is successful without the government or the authorities being able to track and check and maybe rescue or release these kids.
Like you rightly said, the government has a responsibility to rescue these kids. But let's take a look at the topography of the area this incident happened, and then what are the response level when these situations occur. And by the time there's a gap and information do not get to, don't forget that because of the constant threat, some of these police outposts no longer exist. So these areas are porous. They are left without the presence of security personnel that would have reacted immediately. And what are the numbers of these personnel, even if they are there? Most police stations have very few police officers who cannot respond to this type of crime. So I think we should be thinking of situation where we can build strike force bases within these areas to prevent these things from happening. And then I think we must deploy technology to be able to track these people, because to take 200 and something children and move them into the bush, we would need to do better than allowing this kind of crimes to occur. I think citizens actually rightly have the right to start thinking differently, like I said. And I think from all indications, the government intervention, swift intervention, I think should be able to assure citizens that a lot of things are going to be done to rescue these children from the hands of these kidnappers and possibly apprehend them.
So in your view, do you think that these bandits are still moving, or they have a place they all converge, or an area they converge? Because that is the crux of my question. That is the suspicion here. Are they still moving with this number of people because they say they keep moving? Are they really still moving, or they are somewhere? Because we've seen people say they've seen them, want to negotiate with them and all of this kind of talk.
Yes, honestly, from my experience, I don't think the kidnappers would camp in a particular area and wait for the security agencies to come after them. They keep relocating, they keep changing locations because they know that agencies are after them. So they will not stay in one place until they are so convinced that they are within an area that it will be very, very difficult to get across to them. Because don't forget, the security agencies have limitations in some of these areas. And these bandits have already studied the topography of this area and know exactly where they are heading to. But saying that they have a camp somewhere, yes, it is true that some villagers keep saying them passing, but how many these villagers are deep inside the bush? By the time security agencies come across these villagers, some of them are reluctant to give information immediately. So we find out there's a gap between the agency, security agencies, and these kidnappers. Well, I think we should do more to be able to track them because of the number of the children involved.
Well, at the risk of belaboring the point, it goes without saying that this seems like a continuous slap on the face of government and of security agencies, particularly the army. There's supposed to be an army formation in that area. First it was Kuriga, where 287 were kidnapped, and then we had another kidnapping, Kajuru, 15, and now 87 in the same Kajuru. Doesn't the Army's explanation about how the failure of residents to report this fly in the face of reason if there is no response in terms of, ensuring deterrence of further kidnap in that area? And the latest from the CDS saying that, it is being done to make the authorities look weak. Aren't the authorities, in fact, weak in the face of failure to deter continuous kidnap in that area?
We will be hearing a lot of theories. The military and other security agencies, as a matter of fact, are not magicians. They do not see into the future. If incidents like this happen, they must get quick information to be able for them to react. But whereby these informations come very late, it's difficult for them to respond the way we wanted it to be. So I think information here was really a problem, and I think the communities too should do enough to be able to report incidents like this immediately they happen, so that we will now see the gap between the time of the incident and the response period from the security agencies. But whereby this information do not come early, you find it makes it so difficult to react immediately.
But if it's pardon me, if it's happened before, shouldn't there be a standby force? There is one division, according to what we're told, in that area. So if it's happened before, shouldn't there be a standby force to deter it, to stop it from happening again, or at least nip it in the bud if it's happening again?
Yeah, I agree with you, but the position of the standby force, what is the proximity to where this incident happened? We are still saying the same thing. I think that if they are based in another location and these people come to Kuriga village and carry out this act, there should be information to the security agencies immediately, so that they could, since it's a standby force, it's a reactionary force, and they should be informed immediately to react to such situation. It's most unfortunate. Like I said, I belong to the school of thought that said we should do better than what is happening. I think we must rethink about our security design so that we should be able to confront this situation. I think there is a little gap somewhere, and this gap shouldn't be allowed to occur any longer, because too many kidnappings, too many is not too good for us.
So I'd like you to also give us some insight, and I'm sure you have done analysis upon analysis. I mean, I see you with a pen there, so I know even as we're talking, you are still, doing some of that. What are our areas of competency and incompetency, such that we know what to focus on? I think the average Nigerian respects the security agencies, and with what we're seeing, it looks like it is eating away at the respect. And I think we need to speak to the issues. What are our areas of competency? Let's commend. But what are those areas we're incompetent in? Is it in terms of manpower, which we've talked about from time to time, which again doesn't make sense to a lot of people? Is it in terms of ammunitions and arms? Is it in terms of strategy? Is it in terms of intelligence? Is it in terms of motivation and welfare? Again, all of these things come together to then impact on the results we see. So what are those areas of incompetency? Again, let us try to deal with it.
I won't be speaking much about how the military evolves, but I can very much speak about the police. And you have just outlined a lot of these problems yourself. Honestly speaking, when crimes like this occur, we must be thinking of putting up a force trained that specializes in countering this type of crime. And when we train these people, what are the motivations? I think each time this issue comes up, I want to agree that the police force have been seriously neglected. Their welfare, their everything about them is not too good. And when this occurs, you cannot motivate a hungry force at all through any means. You must address every issue. Sophistication. Policing should be technologically driven by now. We lack a lot of these devices in the police force. At this era, I think the police should be able to meet up with the challenges of modern day policing. And this has to do with technology, equipment that they can deploy in the field to be able to assist them in overcoming these issues. But I am afraid, I want to be honest, I don't think we are moving fast towards this direction.
So I'm wondering, this may look like a conjecture or a speculation. I don't know what word would be right for it. Sometimes you wonder, what is the end game of all of this happening? Because it can't just be coincidence. There seems to be something going on, more like a coordinated chaos, some form of a coordinated chaos. Because when you look at how it happens, the execution, the sequence, the timing. In fact, one KJB agent said that in a long-term plan, when they want to destabilize the country, they start from demoralization, destabilization, they create crisis, they normalize it. More like moving you to a point where you're constantly unstable, but you will never fall. From your point of view, what is going on? It's not a surface level question, even for me, but from the expert point of view, because you guys are in intelligence community, what is really going on?
I think crime is a global issue, and each time it happens in a country, the citizens get apprehensive. But I would agree that this is totally a Nigerian issue. But it's the approach that matters. Are we actually preparing for this crime? Are we putting much on our security agencies to be able to tackle this crime? These are the questions. Because we shouldn't have allowed a lot of these incidents to occur at this time, especially that the country is passing through difficult moments and citizens are made to carry the burdens of these situations. I think we should do more, and I think the government must have realized now that there's a lot that needs to be done. For the first time, I saw the state governor of Kaduna State, His Excellency Basani, visited the scene immediately. And we see the Chief of Defense Staff also having a meeting with all agencies in some place. That shows the level which I think the state is now taking interest in these situations. Because when they are allowed to happen, it definitely embarrasses the country. And people begin to feel they are no longer protected.
Well, for me, it's still curious as to why Kaduna remains a target, despite hosting a number of our security installations. The Nigerian Defense Academy is, one of them, and yet the state is susceptible to consistent attacks. Either it's in southern Kaduna, Kajuru, Chikun, Breningwari. Doesn't it speak to the strength of our security formations in those security installations? And if you look at the border areas as well, how Kaduna is bordered by so many states. What are those routes, where those bandits find easy entry into Kaduna, and why are the security formations unable to deter such attacks despite hosting these installations?
I happen to be CP Kaduna when I was in service. And when you look at the expanse nature of Kaduna, especially between the Briningwari and some of these communities, like the vast forest, and it's when very thick forest, when these bandits are moving, it's so relatively difficult to dictate their movement from the air because it's not an open ground. And you find it, and it's a stretch of land that traverses into even some countries. So you find out that Kaduna is in a position whereby it's easy to have this bandit operate. But however, I don't want to justify this issue. We have a responsibility. Our responsibility as the military and security agency, we must come up with measures to forestall this. In particular, like you said, Kaduna is a home of the military. You have the Air Force, the Navy, and then the police high command. So I think we should sit down. There should be a proper synergy between these forces. We should sit down and come up with something different. Because when we are doing things every time and we're not getting results, that means such is not working. We should sit down and come up with a workable solution. And this entails that all the agencies must come together and work as a team. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult. When we operate in isolation of each other, it's not going to work. We need to work. We have a common cause here. And the cause is we have an enemy within, and we should be able to crush this enemy, but we must come together as a security force to be able to achieve this end.
Well, it's a no-brainer, really. But we'd like to thank you so much for lending your brain to this conversation, and hopefully we can get one or two things from it, but more importantly to get the results we want. I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Agiole Abe, the retired Commissioner of Police, former Commissioner of Police in Kaduna State, but that experience is really coming to bear here. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.